here we go, people. New LP, long play, album from Feed Me, one of the legends of bass music, undoubtedly, by this point. Is this the fourth or fifth album? What I do enjoy about this from the off is that it's on his own label, so, you know, there's no kind of feeling like he has to make his music kind of tailor to a specific label or anything like that. I'm going in blind. Don't think I've heard any of these tunes. Last year or so haven't been massively enthused. The Monster Cat stuff for me was just varying levels of okay for the most part. We are going to be kicking off here with the opener, Big Kitten. Oh, wow. Oh, come on.
Alright, check. Is this...
Ooh! Ooh! Liking this so far. Catchy stuff like that brings you back in. That's exactly what I mean when I talk about for one, musicality. It's just memorable, do, but also it's being repeated, so it's an idea, it's a little motif that you can latch onto and remember, which is gonna bring you back in. And I'm liking it so far. Got a very classic Feed Me feel to it, for sure. Oh, rebuilding really well. Yeah. Yep. Yes, mate. Fucking yes. Oh, that is Feed Me. That is what I love about Feed Me. Right there. Pretty much fucking encapsulated in a tune. Holy shit. It's just got that classic kind of glowing 2010s Feed Me kind of vibe. The idea is infectious. It's memorable. It sticks in your head. The production is quite thick and chunky. Points where it maybe could have been a bit sharper. Just a little bit more refined. But I think that did complement just the gravitas and the weight of the sound overall. I think he did a good job on that front. The progression of it was insane. From the introduction, which was captivating from the off, into the first drop. Then the midway point, how drawn out that was, the rebuilding of that, the kind of fake out moment it was kind of a fake out, but at the same time I was like, you know, maybe he's been out of dubstep for so long, like proper dubstep, that he's not entirely sure of how much of a thing a fake out is. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm not sure they were being done quite as much in the past when he was around as they are now. But still, it you know, it struck me when the second drop came in as kind of he's just going straight into the outro, which I think would have been quite cool in itself. But then the heaviness just comes in again out of nowhere. Very well done. What an emphatic opener. Really liking it. Feels and sounds like Feed Me. The musicality, the repetition is good. I'm engaged. It's the first track. I'm engaged. This is what I love about him and his style. let's carry on. Track number 2, Blanket Ban. Ooh. That was an interesting tune. I think I did enjoy it in and of itself, but you know, it strikes me as a bit of an interlude moment, so I'm a little bit puzzled as to why that's at number 2 here in the track listing, and why it's not maybe 7 or 8 out of the 11 we have. To have a track that does kind of pose as an interlude quite so near the beginning, when you want to really just hit with the emphatic stuff, just to bring the listener in, I think, make it quite statement making at the beginning. Yeah, that's kind of bringing the tone down just a little bit, when I think, you know, usually you might have that in the middle. And I think there were points as well where I just found it a bit clunky, especially in the introduction. It didn't quite have a clean flow and motion and rhythm to it, even though that was clearly what it was going for. You know, the bass line is good. Again, it's got a nice kind of ravey, gnarly feel to it without being that kind of out there. It's not outlandish. It's not screaming in your face in any way. It's quite to itself, quite controlled. Yeah, there was just a bit of a clunkiness to it to me, a bit of a clunkiness like throughout in the arrangement, and yeah, just interesting having it at that point in the track list for me. Moving on, one of the tracks that has been out for a while already, Reckless with Tasha Baxter. No Mr. Big today, I'm afraid. We have got blue water bottle though. Reminds me of Flux Pavilion, I reckon. That's what I would say. Again, does strike me as a bit of the kind of number that you might have lower down in the album. Just what it's going for, the tone of it. You know, kicking off with Big Kitten, that fat opener, quite heavy. And now it's like, well, what is the tone of the album gonna be? But it is a nice tune in and of itself. It is nice, it's pleasant. Nice vibe. Lento. Lento tracks, what's that? I mean, in my opinion, the cover artwork, obviously it's colourful, but that could be anything. You still, you know, you've got the colour, but ultimately it's his grimace, it's the classic evil feed me smile and face just emblazoned across it, so that could be anything. That could be anything at all. That was nice, quite dreamy, quite airy. You know, he's done that kind of stuff before, but very much taking after the likes of Flux Pavilion on his Wave album, which came out nearer the beginning of the year. They are very close, of course. Feed Me was on that album, so, you know, kind of taking a leaf out of that book. As someone who is was a predominantly heavy artist, and going for, you know, just a bit of a dreamier, more airy vibe and outlook and outlay with his style, with his music, which is nice. The vocal was fine. The vocals alright. The track overall, just fine. Sounds nice. Not remarkable for me. You know, it's probably not one at the moment. Having heard it once, that I'm like, aching to go back to. It's just a nice vibe. It's again quite dreamy and ethereal. 3 pretty different numbers so far for the opening 3. I just kind of wonder where he's going to go from here. But yeah, on that note, moving on, we have track number 4. Cost a £5. Had a tenner.
Oi, everyone, stop. Wait, shut up.
Bit of a noisier flavour to it, doesn't it? Like Sturcia says, like it's just like clunky, almost kind of bit crushy, video gamey, and the sound just continually kind of falling over itself in a good way, like it's constructed very well for what it's going for. Very clearly a Feed Me tune as well. Just the aesthetic, the style, it's very clearly him. Oh, a bit of a breakdown. Bit of a breakdown. Where's this one going? Okay.
Hold on.
Oi. Hold on. What an interesting tune. I mean, the first half, yeah, just upbeat, housey, quite understated in a way. You know, wasn't really going overboard with anything in any way. Had a bit of an old school, almost noisier kind of feel to it. It was quite a bit crushy, quite technological, quite video gamey as well. I liked the whole kind of the winding down bits of the heaviness that we got. Fantastic. I can imagine that first half I'm just gonna continue to enjoy more and more as I hear it again and again. Quite catchy. The second half, it just kind of evolves into this. I don't even know. Like, originally it's a midsection, and then it just kind of progresses and goes into this like ending or finishing rock, just guitar medley kind of section. Very interesting. But this is what artistic liberty sounds like, if I'm being honest. If this was on any label, pretty much any big label, they'd probably just be like, that's a little bit weird, we don't really want that. But seeing as Feed Me can do exactly what he wants or whatever he wants, then yeah, he's going to put it on his album. Do you know what I mean? And it's interesting. It sounds interesting to me. I'm not quite into it yet. The progression is just a little bit weird for me at the moment, having heard it once, but who knows? When I hear it again, could enjoy it as a compliment and as a furthering of the first drop we got in the first half overall. But moving on, we have track number 5, Night Boat. Big ups, Kill Naughty in the chat. Does have a bit of a Justice vibe to it for sure. Again, it just has a bit of a clunky feel to it for me. Just needs a couple more gaps being filled in just for the flow to just swim along that little bit smoother. Musicality is very nice. This fuzzy, warp-like kind of synth that we're getting permeating the whole thing. Hello. So Mama Naughty's just peeped right into the stream. Big ups to Marge. That one running a lot like Big Kitten, in my opinion. Same kind of quality, same kind of things, maybe holding it back a bit. And just a similar kind of vibe, I would say, which is good, just as a way of bringing that style back in. I think that works for the album at this point. Yeah, good flow, good musicality to it, a bit of a grungy feel, a nice stream-like quality to it, even though at points it just was a little bit clunky for me. The flow could have just been a bit smoother. But yeah, I did like the way that it was kind of snaking in and out, and it had this quite just linear feel to it. I enjoyed that about it. And with that, I think comes an element of character and story that we perhaps haven't quite got yet. Especially on the musicality front again here, the whole do 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 do. Yeah, it just gives it a bit of character, gives it a bit of personality, and that kind of over melodic flavor is what's going to give a track personality, character. And then also similar to Big Kitten, which a couple of you guys have touched on in the chat as well, is just that I think the base of it, the foundation, the kind of the percussive bass and the backdrop we're getting here isn't, that sharp. I touched on it as well earlier, but it isn't particularly like refined. It feels a bit, maybe just a little bit swamped out, a bit muddled, a bit muddy. But that is kind of what he's going for. I think that's the ideal with his style here for the album. It could definitely be a bit cleaner. It could be sharpened all round, but I think it is complementing the style he's going for the most part. It's also something I could just warm to as I hear it again, but there are parts here that just maybe feel, just a bit flat. Let's move on, shall we? Track number 6 is If It Bounces.
Terry, it's Josh, it's me. The only thing I need is you. You and...
Ooh. Those little tripling moments at the end of each drop section are very good. There's a wop, 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 wop. Liking those quite a lot. Okay, that was decent. I think if you're coming into this album just wanting a bit of classic Feed Me material, then you're gonna get it there in that tune. For me, that is harking back to his original earliest stuff. I think just sounded like a pretty vintage electro leaning housey Feed Me kind of bop. Same kind of synth usage as he became renowned for, that people began to love him for all these years ago, talking like a decade and more ago by this point, which is a bit mad to say. It wasn't remarkable, I wouldn't say, particularly, just pretty fine. We're going to move on, and next up we have Stupid Small Face, track number 7 here. Just to show you the track name, I'm going to be winding back up just because it looks a bit cleaner. There you go. I did actually like and appreciate the style and genre that he went for there. It was cool, just a bit of a mix of I enjoy overall how he just dropped in the guitar stuff, the rock stuff. I think it's nice for him to, you know, bring that into his style. I think that complements his overall grungy approach and aesthetic quite well. So nice to see him, you know, playing about with that, trying to bring it into his style. I think it does work for the most part. The ideas are unremarkable. They're just fine. Again, just, I mean, not doing anything, not pulling up any trees with those kind of ideas, and I don't know, not particularly noteworthy conceptually, I wouldn't say. But I mean, it's a decent tune. Yeah, I mean, it's not one to make a statement, basically. It's just there to kind of be a tune, another way of Feed Me unleashing his style within the album, which is fine. It's cool. Not exceptional for me in any way, but just kind of doing a job, kind of doing its thing for what it's going for. Moving onwards from there, we have, I think this is track number 8. Just felt a bit too empty for me. Not enough going on, not enough layering, not enough elements in there in the heavier parts. I mean, the vocal sample itself is catchy, no denying that. That's the thing that is going to make me go back to it and try and get into it a bit more. That Frank is just stuck in my head. So that's good. But I mean, he's done this style countless times by this point. I think one of the best examples for me would be Stay Focused. Stay Focused. From a few years back, 2015, 2016. And this kind of tune again is going for that kind of style, but it just doesn't have the style quality. Like, it just doesn't have the wow factor for me, the appeal. It just feels a bit barren, not enough going on. You know, ultimately I probably will end up enjoying it quite a bit more when I hear it again. But for now, having heard it once, it just had quite a distinctly bereft, flat, just meh kind of feel to it. Like, it was dragging a bit. Track number 9 is Stop Motion with Heights. very lovely so far. Of the more chilled numbers that we've got here so far on the album, definitely my pick of the more chilled cuts. Yep, definitely. Of the more chilled ones we've got on the album so far, I really enjoyed that one the most, for sure. The vocal was engaging. I liked it. Really liked also the bass line chugging along, that do-do-do, do-do-do, do-do-do. Yep, that was very catchy, very infectious. Yeah, just a nice cut. Moving on from there, we have the penultimate cut on the LP. Tamp, Tamp, Tamp. We're going to check that out right now. Here we go. The longest cut here, 5.5 minutes long, so strap yourselves in. Okay. Okay. Transition was great. It had the foundation, that tune. It really did. Like the setup of it, the structure of it. It is just in its foundation a classic feed me housey banger. It's got that vintage feed me feel to it. Feels very much like him, but conceptually, I mean, for me again here, it just doesn't quite. It just doesn't have that wow factor, that star-studded appeal. The introduction was fantastic. I was like, when that was, playing out, running its course, I was like, wow, this is we're gonna get something here. Like this could be the climactic, big number of the album. But then the heaviness comes in again. And it just falls quite flat again for me. It just doesn't have enough going on. It's fine, but the overall sound just has quite a flat feel to it. Like there are things missing, elements not quite there that definitely could be, that would push it along a bit more, give it a bit more flavour, a bit more character. Again here, there are a load of them across this album. The bass line again here is solid. It is good. That's the thing that keeps it ticking along, but it's still just bearable for me. It's not really making me, it's not wowing me. Again, it's not sticking out to me as something that sounds like him really, really strutting his stuff. Do you know what I mean? It's just fine. with that structure, with that style, that aesthetic, that approach. We've heard from him before many a time by now. If you're doing that again, if you're going for that again, then you do just maybe want to hear a bit of experimentation here and there, or a genius touch, just to kind of elevate it beyond the standard housey, you know, tens kind of vibe, if you get me. That was so classic and vintage of him. Feather Crown, final cut here on this new self-titled Feed Me album. Let's go. See some of the snares on the album as well, just like that idea a decent amount. I think it was quite a sweet vibe. Returning, well, it felt like a bit of a meld actually of his heavier style and the lighter stuff that we get at various points here in the album. Finishing on that kind of note with a bit of a more flowery number is always a nice little touch to have at the end. I thought that was good, and I think they're just melded quite well here. You know, his lighter side and his darker side. I think that's a good idea. It's quite catchy, sticks in your head. You know, a lot of the has quite a flat, chunky, just kind of weak feel to it. You know, some proper sharp percussion could have really elevated those ideas and, you know, taken them up a notch, taken them up a level. If we're talking about just, you know, the overview of the album, someone did mention earlier that to them it just sounded like, I don't know if they'd heard it already the whole way through or if they were hearing it with us here on the stream, but they said it sounded like a bunch of demos. And whilst I wouldn't quite go that far, there is a part of me that feels like this doesn't feel like an album per se. I might have that feeling more so when I hear it again, but it doesn't for me just have a particular, I mean, it's clearly him for the whole thing, but whether it feels like it has a lineage to it or like a story or there's a real relationship between these tracks and the progression of them just has an album feel. Do you know what I mean? It, you know, to me, just feeling at the moment like it's a load of classic Feed Me kind of numbers that have just been kind of thrown together. There isn't much evident care here for me, if I'm being honest, when it comes to the ordering of them. We got that massive opener with Big Kitten, then we got a kind of transitionary track at the second one with Blanket Ban, and then coming in with the super chilled stuff at track 3 already. Those are the kind of tunes that you would have maybe, you know, towards the latter third. There was one, I can't remember which one it was. Was it, Stop Motion. To be fair, that was a good one to have at that point. Rated that. But there's just a lot of the ordering here to me just feels a bit odd. Like there are some tunes being grouped together here where, you know, having something else maybe could have worked better. I think if you enjoy Feed Me overall, then you are going to get a bit out of the album, at least, you know, quite a bit anyway, because it is his style. It's his classic original style playing out here for the most part. little bits of experimentation here and there. Not a lot, but little bits here and there, which are good and which people are going to enjoy. You know, those who have followed Feed Me for years and years and whatnot. For me, lacking a distinct wow factor across basically the whole thing. Not that star-studded. There weren't that many moments here where I was just like, you know, my attention was peaked. You know, you can really tell. This is what I mean by, that's what I mean by that phrase. It's like, you can be doing anything. You could be, you know, writing something down or on your phone and you're hearing music, and then suddenly your attention is just like, wow, like zapped into focus. Like, what the fuck? I could probably count on one hand the amount of moments like that, if I'm being honest. And, you know, some people might say it's not for that. It's just what we're getting here is an outlay of Feed Me style, and that should be enough, and that will be enough for a lot of people. It's just, yeah, an outlay of Feed Me style, and that is to be expected when he's just dropping an album on his own label. He can do what he wants, artistic liberty and all of that. But if I'm being honest, like, if you're gonna be going for those styles again, those ones which you've done quite a lot of by now, you need to just have that a little bit at least of that wow factor, sorry, just to really engage. You know, just moments of just ingenious little moments like that, just here and there, that are gonna really bring the listener back in and want to hear these tunes again and again. You know, it is just me, and I could end up finding those moments more and more when I hear it again and again. But at the moment, having heard it once, I'm not sure there's that much of that kind of level of material here on this LP. You know, we think about High Street Creeps, for example. That for me was a lot of Feed Me experimentation, and he did very well on that front. It was one of my albums of that year. Was it 2019? But yeah, that was him, you know, really branching out, trying new stuff, whilst, you know, having a few in there as well that were quite classic of him. Then we have other albums of his where it feels more distinctly like him, but he's really pushing it through with the melody. The ideas are super catchy. This album here doesn't quite have either for me. It has bits of experimentation there, here and there, sorry. But for me here, they're mostly unremarkable on this album. And then the stuff that is also him, that feels, you know, quite distinctly like him, his style, are also to me pretty unremarkable for the most part. So again, as I said, for the most part, at the moment, not getting loads out of this album. A couple that I'm liking quite a bit, but I wouldn't go far beyond that. But it is Feed Me, so, you know, one of my favourite artists ever of all time, for sure. So I'm looking forward to hearing it again and again.